Let's go.
Through every single universe mode ever made, from SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 all the way up until WWE 2K24, to find the best thing in each version of universe mode. Before I get into this video, make sure to subscribe with all notifications turned on. Don't forget to also like the video if you do end up enjoying it. Now let's start with SmackDown vs. Raw 2011. SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 was the debut of universe mode, and as you can imagine, it was a bit goofy to start off, seeing as it was the first version of the mode. But don't get me wrong, goofy isn't a bad thing at all. It's what made this mode so much fun, and that's why the best thing for me in this universe mode is just the complete randomness of it all. 1 minute you are fighting for the WWE title, and then in the same story you'll be forging an alliance with Santino Marella for some reason. It made no sense whatsoever, but it gripped many of us SVR11 universe mode players because we just wanted to see how much weirder and random it could get. I just wish that we could have a option to have a wilder universe like SVR11's in the current games. WWE 12's universe mode came with some fantastic upgrades to the mode, like injuries and interference, but the best thing for me personally was the draft events that take place on Raw and SmackDown after WrestleMania. Raw superstars face SmackDown superstars, and the winners of each match will get a mystery draft pick for their brand. It was a fun and exciting way of swapping superstars across the brands rather than just doing it manually. One of the complaints about universe mode in SVR11 and WWE 12 was that sometimes your universe could feel a little stale and like rivalries are not happening or working like you want them to, so you feel like refreshing your universe save up, except you couldn't do that at all in SVR11 or WWE 12. If you didn't like where your universe was heading, you just had to keep going in those games. WWE 13, however, added a reset universe option, which you still see to this very day. And it's a really simple but handy feature when you're just feeling like starting over with your universe save. For how useful it is, it deserves its place as the best universe mode feature in WWE 13. Now, with WWE 2K14 universe mode, the obvious choice would be to go for the rivalry system, which I'd totally understand many people picking. Because again, one of the many complaints of earlier universe modes was that rivalries were not really tracking, so with a rivalry system, you'll have rivals properly tracked. However, I preferred the addition of tournaments to universe mode because I do feel like rivalries made universe lose a lot of its unpredictable and random moments. Sure, it would be weird at times, but there were other times where it would work perfectly and you'd get great and surprising rivalries. So yeah, I'm going to go with tournaments for that reason, and they were pretty fun too. 2K15 took universe mode to a new generation of consoles, but didn't bring a ton of features with it, though the one big feature it did bring was by far one of the best things that have ever been added to universe mode, that being the story collection feature, which was pretty much the rivalry action feature that we know today, only done way earlier, but with less freedom. With story collection, you would create a rivalry, but then you would have to add the type of story that you'd want to take place with this rivalry, which meant you'd get predetermined cutscenes throughout the story. It was great for those who wanted the cutscenes to tell the exact story that you were looking for, rather than just a bunch of random cutscenes making up the rivalry. Moving over to 2K16, and this universe mode felt more like it was more about polishing it up a little bit, rather than adding anything majorly new to the mode. But one of the things I did like about it when playing through it again was the addition of traits to the mode. These little traits would affect how the character would act in universe mode. So I remember seeing some characters who had desperate traits, for example, try to get themselves DQ'd on purpose, and characters with the cowardly traits being the ones who would get frustrated during a match and walk away to get counted out. I do believe these still remain in the game to this very day, but when playing 2K16's universe, it did feel like these were more important in this game due to them being the new addition to the mode. Now this might be one with a bit of controversy, which I always say when we're talking about promos in universe mode, because some people love them and some people hate them. I get it, but I did like the idea of them. I just felt like they could have been done a bit better. Still, I personally think it's the best thing about 2K17's universe mode. One of the more underrated features in universe mode has to be the rivalry intensity feature, which was added in 2K18's universe mode. This addition made rivalries feel more unique, as they all didn't just have to be brawls every week, now thanks to this intensity setting. If you did set it to low, That means you'll get cutscenes that don't feature any sort of attacks or violence. It'll be more like handshakes and possibly even teams forming. And it didn't also mean that the low intensity rivalry would eventually just get worse and worse. It could just also end as a low intensity feud with no attacking cutscenes. It really was actually quite varied what could happen, and it's why it's my best thing in 2K18's Universe Mode. Universe Mode up until 2K19 featured Money in the Bank cash-ins, but they were pretty much the same other than a new cutscene being added for 2K16 I think. They would always happen after the champion had their match. 2K19 however would change things up and give us more Money in the Bank cash-in options than ever before. You could cash in after a match like normal, but you could also now cash in during a match to make it a triple threat match. And you could also even announce your cash in at the start of the show if you're keeping your character as the good guy who gives the champion a warning first. WWE 2K20's Universe Mode was the first time in a long time that there was expansions to the mode rather than additions. So for the first time since 2K14 introduced rivalries, the number was bumped from 3 to 4, the weekly TV show match cards were expanded from 7 to 9 matches, and pay-per-views could now have up to 14 matches on the show. And to be honest, these were really good additions to the mode. These were really good expansions that took way longer to happen when you look back at all this Universe Mode history so far. Jumping over to 2K22 now, and with this Universe Mode, they didn't really do anything with it other than the addition of the Superstar Mode. In this mode, you take control of one character and play through a Universe Mode as just them, as you play Universe more like a old school season mode. And to be honest, I'm kinda surprised it took this long for a Superstar Mode to happen in Universe, because Universe Mode in the earlier days definitely felt more like an expanded season mode, especially if you go back and view a lot of the earlier trophies for it and the unlockables for the earlier Universe Mode. It was a lot more about winning titles and winning matches to get the trophies and unlockables. But yeah, Superstar Mode did its job. It's pretty decent for what it is, and with there not being much else new in 2K22's universe, this takes the spot of the best thing in 2K22's Universe Mode. 2K23 finally brought back one of the most requested features from an old Universe Mode, with the addition of rivalry actions. As I mentioned earlier, this is more of a beefed up version of Story Collection from 2K15. Instead of choosing whole storylines however, you could pick what cutscenes will happen each week during a rivalry, with it working more like a story creator mode without the addition of text boxes. It's a great feature that many had wanted for many years and gives the player more freedom, which is what many have asked for with Universe Mode. And with 2K24, it comes back to the rivalry action feature once again. For all the good that it was in 2K23, it did have one major flaw however. You couldn't pick who you wanted to be in the matches for the cutscenes. Whoever 2K23 picked, then you had to have that rival go up against that character. What 2K24 did however, was add the option to choose the person in the rivalry action. So now if two rivals are facing each other, you could pick a rival's friend to have their back or to face off against their rival. And just to make rivalries make more sense really.